show you how to. I'll show you a tutorial for beginners, for new people to surviving Mars, and I'm gonna show you how to play surviving Mars on the PS4 or PS5, whichever you're gonna go. The controls shouldn't change. Now, there are tutorials, and the tutorials, they are good. I have completed one of them, but they don't cover all of it. Like, for example, domes and columnists and stuff like that, maintenance. It's actually fairly simple, really. If you, let's say you're just, so first what you want to do, you don't want to do challenge mode, you don't want to do creative, because creative, first, to do that, in order to do a creative game, you need to know what you're doing. You can, if you want to, just learn about what you're doing, but instead what you want to do is do a new game, and because I'm doing this from PS4, I will be broadcasting it instead of just doing a regular thing. So when I open home menu, you'll see this, the 3 smiley faces. You should see that. But okay, now we're here. So it's loaded, and this is the first screen you'll see on the newest one. So for beginners, you always want to do International Mars Mission. It's really good, and it's at the bottom you can see recommended for first-time players. Really good, really good for first-time beginners. So you're gonna want to select that. Now the rocket scientist. So you have different things, and also, so before I cover anything, so you'll see that percentage under mission setup. That's the difficulty challenge. So the higher the higher the percentage, the more difficult it is. Like Russia, 300%, meaning that it's the most difficult one on here. It is one of the most difficult. The second most is Church of Newark, and so on. So that's why International Mars is the easiest one. Now, you also do have multiple. You have City Mayor, which is really good. It decreases basically building. So inventor, oligarch, and there are others, and I won't read through them, like their descriptions and stuff, but it'll take more time. But just keep it on rocket scientist, because you already immediately get a tech, which I'll cover later. So so just keep it as rocket scientist. You obviously want to do Brussels sprouts. Oh yeah, you can move using L D-pad. So Brussels sprouts obvious. Game rules, you don't need to do anything about this. We'll just keep mysteries. So there are different mysteries, and again, there are harder, like last bonfire. They are really hard, but just keep it on random. So just random stuff will start happening, but yeah, just keep it on random. Just keep it on random. And just next, which is square. So you don't need to change anything about this at all. You might want to change the rocket's name. It's just R3. So I'm gonna call this Brussels sprout 1. There, okay. So we have Brussels sprout 1. It's our first rocket payload. So prefab buildings are basically they're basically IKEA buildings. So like drone hubs, moisture vapor, Stirling generator, and all of this stuff, right? You don't need to worry about these, just keep these the same. But over time, as you gain more tech, you will be able to build these without needing a rocket payload, or So this is really good. So the drone hub, it controls drones and allocates them to different tasks. So it's really good. So yeah, just keep all of it like this. It should set you up immediately. You really don't need food yet, or concrete or metal, because you can actually get those. Sorry, 1 second. Dad? Oh, sorry, it's my dad. Okay, so yeah, so just keep those like that. And so you have different colony size. So usually the higher the resources, the better, but that also does mean that you have a higher chance of threats, and there are different threats like meteors, cold waves, dust storms, and dust devils. So yeah, right there. So I found basically resources. Colonies that you can follow it if you want. There already are. It's just there. It's just 1 degree south, 16 east. So I mean, it is really good. Or you can do random if you want. But yeah. So it was 1 degree south. Let me find it. There. 1 degree south. So yeah, you can choose where you want to start, but like you can choose stuff like Camari Alpha. Those usually have lots of resources. So these are already like pre-made. I mean, you can if you want to, but you can pick your own colony site. But I do suggest sticking with the already made one. So I'm gonna find a nice one. Yeah, this one's nice. Serenium Beta. That one looks nice. It actually has low threat rates, lots of resources, and that's really good. So we're gonna go ahead and use that. So we're just gonna start it. So I mean, this looks intimidating. All of the stuff looks intimidating, and you won't know where it is. So basically, there are different things about it. So the map will be randomly generated, so you won't get the same map as I will. You might get because I believe we are in a canyon. Oh yeah, I do have. You can choose radio stations. I like this one. But yeah, this map layout, I need to. Just keeping the hints on. But yeah, if you want to, you also have encyclopedia here. It's just in options, and then you can just see the buildings and stuff. Yeah, so this is really good. So let me just pause it. So you can pause it using the D-pad. So you immediately. Okay, now you can hear me, and you won't hear that. I just do it like that. So this is good, but there's not water here, and we want water. So like that sector H5, you probably won't. So you probably won't get any the same thing as me, because as I said, the maps are randomly generated. Like, you probably won't get the same as me. So yeah, there's different things. This is actually a really good start because we can actually put windmills up here, and that'll, because the higher up a windmill is, the more power it gets because of the wind speed and stuff. So that's really good. So what we want to do, because this has it's not that buildable, so you'll see unexplored and then under it buildable area 45%, but there is a high chance of it having water. So you'll see under my rocket, which I have just highlighted there, Brussels sprout 1, next to it I have 4 orbital probes. You'll have the exact same amount, so I can select a sector. I said hints off. What happened? Apply. Okay, so I can, by pressing square, I can deploy an orbital probe which will scan it immediately. There are other ways to scan it, so don't worry, you don't just need orbital probes, but this just does it immediately. So yeah, there is water there. That is good. So instead of using up our, so then we can have a water rig. So I'll show you how you can get to that later. But okay, so now so because we have 3 left, I'm gonna continue searching for some other things. So that's really good. Metals and rare metals, that is really good. Rare metals are used to make um, electronic components, electronics, and those are used to repair certain buildings. And I'll show you how. I'll talk to you, well, next episode I think, or maybe even the 3rd episode, we can do how to, like, establishing life and stuff. Okay, so we're gonna scan. So the money sign is rare metals. Um, so and the like triangles are concrete deposits. Okay, so we have 2 more. Let me just scan concrete. Okay, I'll talk about the key in a second, and then anything up here. Water, please. Great. Okay. Okay, so now we can land our rocket just by pressing R1, and then X, it'll say land Brussels sprout, or you can name it whatever you want, but I just named my Brussels sprout 1. You, well, you didn't have to name it, but yeah, I should have told you, but okay. So I'm gonna land it right here. Later on, you you might not want to land your rockets in certain places, but I will talk about that later. Okay, so I've just landed it. Now we're gonna unpause and see it gloriously come down. So you can see that it's ready to land. Land rocket. It's going to land there, and ta-da! You can see it coming down. It's so beautiful. It's really cool, and so get me back in there. Okay, so now we are generally in range. We are out of range of the water, but that will be okay. So this, you see this like giant, basically honeycomb, I should say. So that's the area of which your drones, which are basically, they're not manually operated, they're automated. You can see them here coming out. Usually I run it at the fastest speed, which is like this, but I'm just gonna slow it down a bit. So these guys, I'll just pause it actually. So these guys, what they do is they'll build any buildings for you and do stuff like that. But they only work within drone hubs or within a rocket's radius. So rockets and drone hubs have the same radius, but this is just basically the radius of this giant honeycomb. We can build anything within it. So the first thing we want to do is start a concrete depot. So what we'll do is first we'll look for different grades. So this concrete depot has a grade of average, which means that we will get an average amount of concrete. All of these, well, no, only 2 of these are covered by the rocket. And this one also has a grade of average. So we can actually end up using both. So just by pressing triangle, you open the build menu. I'll talk about these later. So the shuttle hub is basically what you get from the scientist, but that we'll talk about later. The so what we want to do is you go into production. You want a concrete extractor. Oh yeah, make sure before you land your rocket, you land it somewhere near water. So the basically the concrete extractor can be, it doesn't have to be directly on this, but I wouldn't suggest that, because let's say you want to have multiple concrete extractors, that's a really good idea. So I'm gonna just put one there, and then these drones should get working on it. Yeah, you'll see them. So this is metal deposit. This is like surfaced metal deposit, and so what these do is basically they they basically they're basically metal, and so they're used to build metals. One of the things that is used to build concrete extractors, and actually you don't need concrete to build a concrete extractor, which is really good. So now we have this power icon, and it's even given us a warning. By pressing L1, it'll say building's not working, and then if you press X, it'll show you which one of the buildings are not working. So this building's not working, so how can we resolve that? Well, if we open the build menu and we go to the power lightning bolt thing, we have multiple a few choices here. I wouldn't suggest going with the Stirling generators, um, but it is recommended later on that you do get generators, and there is a way to build them. But right now we still have the IKEA version where you get like 3 extra bolts and you don't know why. So we're gonna build a solar panel. No, I said solar panel. Solar panels are really good. There's really not a difference between large and small solar panels. I mean, it doesn't really do anything. The cost is just that this one costs more, but makes a little bit more energy. Like this one makes 2 energy, this one makes 5, but just the cost difference and the maintenance as well. So the way that buildings work in surviving Mars is that they have to be maintained. You'll see it on any basically any building that you've done, except for rockets. So the way it works is the after a certain amount of time, you can see there. So if you want to go into this menu, you press R2 and then X. So you just press R2 and then you use uh, the D-pad to move it. So right here, maintenance. So current deterioration. So it's at 14%. So that's okay. So we want to get this working as soon as possible. So we have a power cable. I'm not entirely sure if it's hooked up or not. So a thing you can do is click on um, a building with a power cable and then drag it to another building, and then it'll automatically be attached. But you can just place it in the center, because that's basically, yeah. You can place it like there. That shows that it's attached, which, yeah, works. So yeah, now we have our depots going. So you can see we also have another notification, low storage of actually energy. So what we want to do is build another solar panel, and so build it right there, and so this solar panel will power it further. So now I'm going to dismiss that by pressing first. So now we get into research. So you can access research by either pressing X, or you can press L2, which and then you use the D-pad to go into research, which is the like bubble looking, the beaker looking thing. So this is actually a good start. Specifically, this increases production, but also increases production by 20 by 10. So it's okay. If we want to, let's say, make more concrete and stuff, we will do that. But drone hubs are constructed with two, you know, Okay, that one's really good with 2 additional drones, and the maximum number of drones is increased by 80. So that is really good. So instead of having 20, 40 drones, we can have 80. So we'll queue that one up. And so you can see it costs research, and so research cost is 1,000, and our sponsor gives us 300 research. The research, like if you did US or Europe, like I wouldn't suggest it as a first time beginner, but next time if you do use US or Europe, you'll get more research per sol. And a sol is a Martian day, but actually it feels more like a year because of, let me just get back in, because of the how long it takes for rockets to come, and also, babies being born and all of that stuff. So yeah, so let me just go back into research. Remember pressing L2, using L or the D-pad. So we have a drone swarm, soil adaptations new, building farm. That one will be good later. So the research is also randomized, so you won't get the same thing. So you can I suggest just selecting all of them for whichever you get, so you don't really have to. So you can, if you go down robotics, you'll see the CO2 jet propulsion. You can ignore that right now, but it's really useful, but you don't really need that. So yeah. So now that we have that done, um, you have these three little remote control things. So we have our RC transport, which moves. So just to move, it's R2 plus X at the same time, and then you can move the rover. We have the RC Explorer and the RC Commander. So we'll start with this guy. So what he can do, he can go outside the rocket's limits. So as I said, the water was outside the rocket's limits. He can go over here, and like he can collect all of this. He can gather resources of that. So that's really helpful if you're like drone hubs or colony is out of reach of certain resources. The RC transport is really useful for gathering stuff like that. I'll talk about the commander later. So you can cycle through these with L1 and R1. So the explorer, remember how we discovered this key here. So the explorer scans anomalies, which actually help us in the long run. It can be either by getting research or by discovering new research. There are things in research called, let me just open it, called breakthroughs. As you can see, it's empty, but if we do discover a breakthrough, we basically get a new thing, which is really good. So let me just speed this up. Yeah, run at max speed. Okay, so we now have a problem. Let me pause it. This beginning video is gonna be tough. How long am I? Okay, so we now have a problem. It's nighttime, and so we have a lightning bolt icon on our um loss of words. We now have a lightning bolt under our concrete extractor. So what does that mean? Well, it means that either a well, it's plugged into the grid obviously, but it's because it's plugged into the grid, but it's not getting power because the solar panels don't activate at night. They actually cover themselves up to protect them from dust devils, which are basically dust tornadoes and dust storms and stuff like that. So what we're gonna do is build a wind turbine, and actually we're gonna put it over here. That's kind of far, but it actually helps a lot. So then we get our power cables, and so you can click on a solar panel, and it'll actually
The highlighted means that it's connected, and then now it should be connected. And yeah, okay. So we'll let the drones take care of that. Move my drone army. So far we have everything up and running. The explorers scanning the anomalies. Um, and our transport is gathering resources, which is good. The drone commander, he can be used to get drones outside of your colony. He has a big area, so the commander, the remote control commander, he can go anywhere on the map. Like for example, I just pressed R2 and then I go into recall drones. Any drones that it owns recalls back to him. And then let's say I want to bring the drones over here. It's out of reach of the rocket, but it'll still work. So if I unpack the drones, so deploy drones, they'll still work within the area. So let's say is that, let me check if that should be, oh okay, so that's it. Let me just, oh, drone prototypes. Apenglo Robotics, a cutting-edge tech company specializing in military and medical automation, are pushing to expand their resume with robotics as well. As a means to propel their ambitions into the new field, they have made a drone prototype similar to the ones we use on Mars. And what better location to showcase the feasibility of the drones than the surface of another planet? We could accept their offer. They will provide us a free batch of 8 drones via a supply drop. Reject the risks are introducing foreign tech in the colony. So so this um so this could start AI intelligence, I believe, as a mystery. So you could reject, but if you want to, you could continue and the mystery could happen. I'm gonna reject. You can just accept it if you want. You could get new drones and stuff. So let me just get you here, my friend. So you need to move, gather resources. Okay. So so yeah, that was the anomaly that our explorer. Okay, so this is, yeah, this is outside. So we can like deploy the drones. We can deploy the commander's drones here. No, that's not the one I want. Okay, come here. Where are you, commander? Oh yeah, if you can't find your commander, you can just use R1L1 click. Okay, so he's there. So we want to recall drones and move you here. Okay, so now that he's moved there, and once we unpack the drones or deploy the drones, they will start to gather these resources and put them over there. So that's really useful. So we just deploy drones, and then let's say we build a. So another good. So we now have a problem here. It's saying cubes and the concrete constructor has stopped working. So the concrete extractor can hold up to 20 concrete, but in order for it to continue working, we need to go into production. No, storages. So you have 2 depots. Third, universal depot, which stores all kinds of stuff, food, stuff like that. It's really good if you're running out of space or you just, you know, just want everything in one big pile. But just use a depot. And so we are going to build a concrete depot, and what we're going to do is place it right, I guess by the depot is good, so we'll place it there. You don't have to follow me if you want to, but so then that way, because if we do build other concrete depots, yeah, by the depot and by the extractor. So now the drones, they know that, oh, okay, so we can Now bring all the concrete to here, and then that'll allow it to work, which is great. So now because this is working, we can start automation again with our concrete extractor. So we can also do that with metals. So we'll go into depot metals, and we can put it, I guess, by here. There. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's good. Okay. So now if this is in, wait, let me. So because the reason why these drones aren't gathering the resources, because they don't detect that, they're because the range of the drones is within the honeycomb. So what we'll do is we'll recall the drones. So the way we do that is just R2 and X. So and R well R2 and then R2 and X is move it. So we'll move him actually. Is that big enough? Let me just see. Yeah, that's big enough. So now these drones will get to work. They will start to move the surface metals. So they'll start together and then they'll move the surface metals over to here. So that's really good. So the reason why these solar panels are really dusty is because um, all productions except for life support, all productions, so metal extractor, concrete extractor, rare metals extractor, um, polymer factory, and fuel refinery, all of them create dust, which can either A, damage solar panels, which causes them to not make as much energy, or if you, let's say, you've placed down a Stirling generator, which are really good, they can be opened, but they produce twice as much power, but um, if they are exposed to a lot of dust, they won't do that anymore. So you need to be very careful where you place that. So that's why we're gonna build out our electronics this way, which is really helpful. So that's really good. So now that we have this going, we can so we'll go into infrastructure and then we'll place the drone hub. So the drone hub, what it does is it basically gives drones a new space. So we need it within range of the rocket because otherwise it won't be able to work. And so, wait, let me just, okay, so the rocket goes that far. So I can place it here if I wanted to, but I am going to place it here and I am just going to hook up Stirling generator because it doesn't kick up dust. So it'll autosave and I won't be able to do anything. But so after it autosaves, I will deploy the drone hub and then I'll place a Stirling generator, and then that way it won't kick up dust. It only needs 3 power, which is good. So I think I'll be better off just placing a wind turbine, and those are really good because they work during the day and night. The solar panels are also really good, but they don't work during the day and night. So yeah, right now that drone's just unpackaging it. It doesn't cost anything, but so let them just build that. But it does. So these basically any machine or building with a number under it doesn't cost any metal or resources because it's just like a IKEA thing. It's packed in a box. So what we'll do now is we'll start to build our first water extractor, and water extractors are really good for helping us colonies stay fit. So the honeycomb at least it needs to be touching, but I suggest that you don't build it directly on top because let's say you want to build other water extractors. Those are really good. So just as long as the honeycomb is just touching a bit, it won't work here, but it will work here. So we can just build that there. And because we just placed down the drone hub, it covers this much. So it covers just a little bit more than the rocket does. a little bit more. I think it's actually the same. Yeah. Well, a little bit more than the rocket does. So then that way, so you don't need to end up placing two in the same spot, because what I do suggest though is you place them like at the edges, because drones can still come out here, and then you can just have like a entire colony covering. Okay, so now we have our first um, water generator. So I am gonna pull power from here. So power cables. Um, yeah, pull power from here. Want it kind of straight. So we'll pull, yeah. Okay, so we'll pull power from here. So we'll do this. So yeah, that's connected now. So the drones, they will build out here, and so once that starts to get power, it should start making water. And so yeah, this is a really small setup. We are going to get you. So you can set up routes for the um, transport. So just by pressing R2 and triangle, you'll unload resources, and R2 and squares load resources, and then you can choose how much. So like you can square is 5, X is all, and then circle is like, let's say you choose to load 10, you just press circle. So yeah, so we will get him to gather those resources, and then yeah, okay, we'll get this guy. So what we'll start to do is scan areas. So you can scan areas, you can have up to 5. So we'll scan that area, that area, that area, that area, that area, and that area. So there are ways to make it faster, but right now we don't really need to do that because we're not planning to expand our colony that much. We're just looking for more production speed. So yeah, so right there is an anomaly. I okay. So we'll make him scan there. Okay, that's working well. So we'll scan that, and then you can also go like here and stuff like that. But our initial plan is to get wind turbines up there, so because there is a they can be built there. So you get just a bunch, like, oh, that was a meteor strike down there. So basically our plan is to get a bunch of wind turbines up here, which will be our main power source, and probably a couple of Stirling generators, because hopefully by then we'll have the um, tech for that. So our thing is hooked up, but it still doesn't have enough power, and that's probably because this is taking up most of the power because it's higher priority. You can't set priority on things by pressing it R2 and then changing it. So higher priority, and then so yeah, if we change the priority, this one stops working but this one starts. So we'll first deal with this problem of both of them not working. So we can use a power accumulator, and those basically save power. Those are really good. So whatever power is wasted, it still gets used. So like power production, 5 point stored power. So elevation boost. So 7. So right now um we're making well we so if we were so because of elevation boost, we make +7 power. But if we were up here, I'm guessing we would make like +20 or so, because the higher you are up, the more you get. Oh, sorry. Okay, so now, okay, you're back. Okay, so now we have to deal with this problem. we have to deal with this problem, which is really important. So let me just slow it down a bit. So the problem with this is that it's pumping. Yeah, it's pumping, but it doesn't have anywhere to store it. So what we need, well, no, it doesn't have anywhere to store it. It just needs pipes connected to it. So you'll go into life support, and then you go into pipes, and then you can only, so the only place that it'll actually get connected is from here. So we'll do this. Yeah, we can do that. That's really good. So then it'll start pumping. Um, so yeah, that's really useful. So after those get built, that should start to work. So that's working. Everything's working smoothly. This is really good. So if you click on your rocket, you can still see how many resources you have. So under advanced resources, so we still have 13 polymers, 10 electronics, and 6.5 machine parts. So what we want to do is, let me find our transport. Where are you? Okay. So you've finished scanning those. Come here. We want you to unload. Okay, that's good. Let's speed this up a bit. Okay. So while we're waiting for that to speed up, and then we'll get him to unload those resources. So, okay, now he'll load resources. We'll do all. Then he should load all resources. Yeah. So as you can see on the rocket, everything's being drained. So he's doing it each at a time. So now, yeah. So everything's been drained. We can launch the rocket if we wanted to. So we'll move you. So we have polymers on him, machine parts, and electronics. So we'll build depots for those. So polymers. So polymer depot. Oh yeah, polymers don't cost anything. It's just like placing cardboard down there. They don't cost anything at all. So you can place as many depots as you want, but I would be careful because then you'll probably because you don't get anything when you salvage them. So then electronics and machine parts. Okay, this is really good. This is really useful. Mission Control suggests that we order a resupply rocket with a valuable payload from Earth. Okay. So, this isn't ready to take off yet. So, I'm gonna actually, so you can allow or forbid resources, and I'm gonna forbid all exports, like not resources, but exports to rockets, because we want those sweet resources. Oh, so what's the problem here now? So, we do have, let me just pause it. We do have pipes and stuff, but the problem is that we don't have any place to store it. So water towers will be very useful for storing that. It's really helpful, water towers, so that'll work brilliantly. Actually, it might be better in the long run to place it here because we will have other how should I say, other extracts. So actually no, it'll be fine placing it here because we can still use it. Okay, so we'll place it there. That'll be fine. And then we'll also run some pipes down here. Okay, that'll be fine. So just to keep things organized, I like to keep pipes and wires on the same thing. So we have our basic setup. I think that'll be it for the first episode, I believe. Yeah. Okay, I will this will be kind of a scuffed ending, but I will see you guys later. If you want to, please hit the subscribe button and like and enjoy, and I hope you enjoyed the content. and I will see you later.